Getting more from GA4, optimize and customize your instance for Digital Zone 23. Thanks, Amit and Zio, for having me. I'm very excited and super pumped that Heather is following me too. She's been one of my heroes for a long time. If I could advance a slide, there we go. So I am Fred Pike. I'm a managing director at Northwoods in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, close to Chicago for those who are not US based. And I lead the GA and GTM practice here at Northwoods. We are a digital agency, about 45 people, started as a custom dev shop, custom software dev, and then got into the digital marketing side about 8 or 10 years ago. And that's where I spend my time. So because we are Northwoods, we tend to think about the woods. We tend to think about being out in the woods. And for people in Wisconsin, the Northwoods is where you go to escape. It's where you go fishing. It's where you go to the lakes. It's where you go to relax. But let's say you're in the woods and you come across this box, which is kind of, looks a little bit scary, and you're not really sure what's in it. And to me, that's how a lot of people approach GA4. They think, oh my gosh, it's not UA. I don't like it. It's different. But what I'm trying to do here today, what I'd like to do is change your perception, perhaps a little bit of GA4 and shine some sunshine into that box, open the box, get rid of the fog. Let's explore some of the cool things that are in GA4, which had some great things right from the start. I mean, I've really been a GA4 fan almost from the beginning, recognizing that there are flaws and recognizing that, yes, I miss universal analytics. But I love GA4. I really do. I think the event model is great. And I think there's some exciting things that have come out recently. And so I want to talk about that. So today we're going to be talking a lot about some of the admin settings. So if you're not an editor or an admin in your GA4 property, this may not be that helpful, but you will still know the types of things that can happen in GA4 so you can talk to your admin or editor. I'm going to cover really quickly some base settings that every GA4 property should have. Then we're going to be talking about some of the new things that have come up, like data redaction. I'll talk about conversions, calculated metrics, which is new. We'll talk about customizing reports. We'll talk about Google Signals, attribution. And about 5 o'clock 4 hours from now when we end, then Heather can get on and talk about something way more interesting. I'm kidding. We won't go for 4 hours. I know our time is limited here. And of course, we'll have questions. So the first thing I want to do is just cover some base setup tips. And I know we're talking about optimizing and customizing, but I tell you, I go into so many GA4 properties which don't have this setup. And it's like, no. Everybody has to know you have to do this. So what are those things? You need to set data retention settings to 14 months. In enhanced measurement events, turn off form interactions and verify your search query. And you've got to add some basic custom definitions. So let's go live and I'll show you what those things are. We are, as every GA4 presentation talks about, we are going to be looking at the GA4 property for the Google Merchandise Shop. I think it's a requirement that you have to show this. But I'm also going to have a different analytics property that we'll look at briefly, the fredpike.com GA4 property, which is just a demo site I use to try things out. It's not really a live site. But in the merchandise shop, let's take a look at those 3 basic settings that I talked about. The first one is not the data collection, the data retention. By default, when you first set up a GA4 property, the data retention is set to 2 months. That's as far back as you can go. Now, what does that mean? There's a lot of confusion around that. It doesn't mean that all your data in the standard reports is going to go away. What it means is that the data in the explorations section will go away after the 14 months. And if you're like me, if you're doing anything GA4, you're going to be spending a lot of time in the explorations. That's where I do my first level quick and dirty analysis of stuff. The standard reports are okay. I just like the explorations. And so I want to have more than 2 months worth of data. And let's look at what they have, what the Google Merchandise Shop. Let's go into the explorations. Just choose any any report, and it's going to show up in the dates here. So today is, what is it, the 21st of November, right? So how far back can I go? I can go back to September 21st of 2022. That's the 14 months. I don't know if you can quite see it on your screens, but everything before the 21st is grayed out. I can't select it. Everything after is grayed out. That's the data retention settings. And if you start off at 2 months and you never change that, you're only going to be able to go back 2 months. And even if you change it to 14 months, it doesn't go back magically. Tomorrow you'll get 2 months and 1 day. Next week you'll get 2 months and a week. So make sure you go into your property and change that. The other thing that I want you to do for sure, and again, this is base. You probably know all this, but some people don't, and they'll be going, oh my gosh, I've got to set it to 14 months. So I'm going to tell you another thing that you want to do. In the data streams, go into your enhanced measurement area and do 2 things. Oh, I can't do it here because I'm not an editor. That's why I've got the Fred Pike one up. All right, so back into admin, go into your data streams. And now go on that gear. And you want to do a couple of things. You want to turn off form interactions. Now, the form interactions give you a form start and a form submit. Theoretically, they give you that. They don't really work like 98% of the time. You get a lot of false data. Like it used to be, if you were running the Facebook, the metapixel on your site, then every time that fired, you'd get a form start. So you would just get tons of noise in there. Just turn it off. Track your forms the right way with a data layer push or on the thank you page or whatever. Don't count on this to work unless you're maybe in that 2% where it actually does work. Then leave it on, but otherwise turn it off. And then the site search, you know, I love looking at how people search on my sites, the sites that I work with for our clients. So what you want to do here is just make sure you're capturing it. And by default, GA4 has 5 different parameters that it uses to capture most search. And it actually works most of the time. So if we go to the Google Merchandise Shop, for example, and let's look for Fred Test. What you want to do, here we go. Boy, it's a little bit slow. What you want is this keyword. You see how keyword, that query parameter of keyword is capturing the keyword that I actually look for? You want to make sure that keyword is captured in your query parameters right here. And as I said, these 5 cover about 80% of all instances. It certainly covers WordPress and lots of the major CMSs, but just verify in your instance that is the case as well. So those are actually there's more things I do here, but those are the basic things that you want in the enhanced measurement. The next thing I want to do, and let's go back over here, is look at the custom definitions. Now, the custom definitions, first of all, one of the things I love about GA4 is that you can customize it a lot to your own instance. And for example, you can add parameters around events that you have on your website. And those parameters are going to be unique to your website or what you're trying to do. If we look at some of the custom dimensions on the Google Merchandise Shop, you see things like member level, like member, promotion name, some things that are going to be unique to the Google Merchandise Shop, particularly member level. You know, I suppose you can, if you bought enough, you can become a platinum, gold, silver, or bronze level of shopper here. If I'm in charge of the Google Merchandise Shop, if this is my website, I want to track those people. So that's a custom definition that I want to track. It would typically be set up in Google Tag Manager, but it's not going to show up in your UI, in the GA4 standard reports or in explorations, unless you have it defined here in the custom dimensions. So at a minimum, whatever parameters you are using that are unique to your website, you want to put them in the custom dimensions. And you can see that they have a fair number here. Now, back to our website here, or back to our deck here for a bit. there's something additional that I want to have you add in that custom definition. And I call this the Alina rule, and we'll see in a little bit why it's called that. At a minimum, if you do nothing else in those custom dimensions, add the page title and add the page location. Now, why would you want to do that? The reason is because the user view in explorations is awesome. It's something I used in Universal Analytics all the time, and I use it in GA4. It lets you look at a specific user and the events that that user did. So it could be page view, first visit, session start, things like that. And I'll show you what that looks like in just a second. Now, the question is, who is Alina? And Alina is a person who reminded me why we do this. I'm part of a community, the Data-Driven You community, datadrivenyou.com. I'm a community expert there. And so I'm often in the helping people out on that group. And I love that group. It's a wonderful, wonderful company. So one of the questions that this person named Alina actually answered is, why would you put some other custom definitions like page title, page location in your custom dimensions? It's because you can use them in your explorations. And here's an example. If you look at the page view, and we'll look at this live in just a sec, but if you look at the page view, unless you have defined page title or page referrer or page location, you won't show those. So you'll see that the user was on a page, but you won't know what page it was. And here's another example. Same thing. This is a list of all the events that the user did, that this single user did on this day coming from Vancouver. And the page view lets me know what page they're actually looking at. The page location lets me know that. That is something that is really critical to add so you can look at it in your user screen. And let's take a look at just an example where it doesn't set that, where it's not set up, which is the Fred Pike store, Fred Pike shop, not shop, the Fred Pike website. Let's just go into explorations. And again, explorations is a wonderful place to work with. And if we look at view our users here, these are the Google client IDs. Each of these is a user. If I look at any one of them, now I'm in the user activity. And here we'll look at a page view. And you can see down here, I don't know what page it's at. I don't know what it is, because in this instance of GA4, in this property, I don't have that custom dimension set up. So you can see how great the user view can be and how lacking it'll be if you don't have that set up. So the Alina rule, as I call it, make sure you add page title, page location in the custom dimensions. If you don't set up those three things that we just talked about, then what's going to happen is that you are going to go into a GA4 property and you're going to start crying because they're not set up. And the issue is that even after you set them up, they're not retroactive. They are from the day that you set them up, that you change the data retention setting or that you add the custom dimensions. They're from that day forward. So just make sure you set them up in advance. Okay. Next thing we're going to talk about is data redaction, which is a brand new feature in a relatively new, 6 weeks maybe, relatively new feature in GA4. And what it lets you do is redact emails and query parameters. It's not going to get rid of the query parameter. You could use GTM if you need to get rid of some of the query parameters. And it's not retroactive either, like so many things. So what am I talking about? First of all, if you do any type of advertising or anything on Facebook, you have probably seen a page that looks like this, where in this example, we have a number of homepage with this Facebook click ID added onto it. Now, this Facebook click ID can be very meaningful in the context of Facebook, but it's meaningless here in GA. It doesn't add anything. It just I would rather see everything. I would rather see all my home pages listed together rather than broken out by all these Facebook click IDs. So let's go live and see where we can fix that. And that, of course, is going to be an admin. That's in the data streams. And this is the new thing, relatively new, that got added, where you can redact data. You can either turn it on or off. And so let's talk about the email first of all. What the email redaction is going to do is stop private PII, personally identifiable information, from showing up in GA4. And you don't want that information to show up. That's forbidden by the terms of service. And it's not, obviously not a good practice either. So when I turn that on, I automatically will get redacted emails. Rather than fredpike@gmail.com, it's going to be redacted. And that's what you want. And then the other thing is that you can put whatever query parameters you want in here, and then those are going to show up redacted as well. So I've already set it up here. It's pretty easy. I didn't think I had to walk you through, but you can test it. And actually, since we're a tiny bit tight on time, I don't think I'll do it. But what will happen once you set it up like this, if you look at the page view information that is being sent to GA, this is an example of one, you can see that the email is redacted and the Facebook click ID is redacted. So that is going to be what shows up in GA4 rather than a user's real email address, which you don't want, and rather than the Facebook click ID, you know, all these hundreds of Facebook click IDs, which we don't want. So at a minimum, go ahead and do that. It's super easy, and just look at which query parameters you want to get rid of. Facebook click ID is the number one in my view, but there could be other ones specific to your website that you want to get rid of as well. Let's see. Next thing is conversions. And if we look at, actually, let's go live for this. Conversions obviously are one of the most important things on your website. There's a reason for your website to be there, right? You have it out there. You want people to do something there, whether it's a form submission or whether it's buying things or whatever. There is a reason. And you should really have, obviously, conversions set up. So let's take a look at where you would set that up. And we are back in, actually, let's go back to the Google Merchandise Shop, which has a few more. I don't know if everybody is used to the new admin layout yet. I'm not quite. I'm still struggling with it, but I'm getting used to it. I was so used to the old one. At any rate, if you go to the events section, you will see all the events that have shown up on this website. The only way they will show up here is if that event has actually been sent to Google Analytics. Some of those events, obviously, you want to be conversions. You want them to be important, marked as important things that show that your users are engaged with the website. The biggest one that shows up by default on every GA4 property is purchase. Regardless if you have an e-commerce shop or not, the standard default conversion event that shows up in your GA4 property is purchase. But if you look at you can set them here. Obviously, I can't because I don't have editor or admin rights, but we can still see what conversions they've got. So these are the things that they have, whoever's responsible for the Google Merchandise Shop, these are the events that they have said are conversion events. Some of them make sense. I'm not sure I would agree with all of them. Like first visit, to me that's not a conversion event. That's a common conversion event for apps. If the first time someone loads your app, that is probably a conversion event. On the website, I don't think so. But again, it's whatever they want. Purchase, as I said, is the default one. View cart, view item, we could niggle. I wouldn't call those conversions, but regardless, you want to set these up. And why do you want to set them up? Because if you set these up well and you have good events as conversions, then Google's data-driven attribution model will look at those conversions and help you decide what were the channels that led to that conversion. And where do they do that? They do that in the section called advertising. And you may think, I am a B2B site that is not doing any type of ads, so I will never look at the advertising. That is not true. You will look at the advertising section. and you will look at the all channels, because that's going to tell you for all, you can see right here, for all conversion events, these are the channels that led to that conversion. And the reason I know that these conversions are coming from the DDA, the data-driven attribution, is because they have decimal points after them. You can see like organic social led, 3,668.71 conversions. Anytime you see decimal points, that says, hey, this is coming from DDA, data-driven attribution. And this is across all conversions. Now, of course, you can go up here and say, okay, I just want, let's clear all of them. I just want, I don't know, membership didn't show up. Let's do begin checkout. And now through the magic of Google Analytics, I hope this will change. There we go. In this case, we were just looking at begin checkout, and now here's the DDA for that conversion event. So again, nothing is going to show up here unless you define it as a conversion. And you want to use this. This DDA, this data-driven attribution, is Google's black box approach that is specific to your website. It's looking at your website traffic, your sources. It's taking their learning model and applying it to your traffic and your conversions. And you have to help Google out by saying, hey, these are the conversions that are important to me. So make sure you do that. Even if you're not selling something, make sure you mark the important events as conversion. And just yesterday, for example, I was working with a client and there were a number of conversions listed in there. Like live chat interaction had 189,000 event counts for that. And I asked them and said, is that really a conversion? All that is the chatbot popping up on the screen. And they said, no, that's not really a conversion. So be judicious with the conversions that you have. All right, next. I think we're doing okay time-wise. I feel like I'm talking really quickly, but that's what we do. Okay, so here are the examples that I just showed in case the screen died or whatever, and that'll be in the deck that you'll have access to afterwards. All right, another one that I really like and is a new addition to GA4 is calculated metrics. And boy, have we missed these. We have really wanted these. They show up under custom definitions where we were just looking at the custom dimensions. We now have the calculated metrics there too. And let's go live with that and show you what that actually, hold on. Oh yeah, that is right where I wanted it to be. So this time we're going to go into the Fred Pike property. And we are an admin, of course. And as I said, it's showing up under custom definitions. So you see this, if it doesn't show up in all properties, and it could be related to what rights you have, whether you're editor or admin. Like I won't see that in the Google Merchandise Shop version. Or you just may not have enough information in your account, which is true with some other ones. But the calculated metric we want to do, and I've already set it up, but I want to show you what it looks like. So you can, I have some fake purchases on this website. And what I want to do is find out what is the average order value of the purchases that have happened on this website. So I can take total revenue, divide that by e-commerce purchases. And here, let's do that from scratch. If we start from scratch, we have all the dimensions that are available to us here. I'm sorry, all the metrics. So we want total revenue, and we're going to divide that by e-commerce purchases. And obviously, I've thought about this a little bit, but it's any metrics you can create a calculated metric from. So we're going to do e-commerce purchases. It's going to be currency. There are several different types of things that you can add to it, descriptors you can add to it. And it's the average order value. So we're going to save that. And now, cool. Now let's add that to a report. Let's see. I'm going to go back here for a second. So that's what we just did. And now we're going to add it to the conversions report. So I'm going to go into my standard reports. I'm going to go into engagement. I'm going to go into conversions. And I already did this, shoot. But I'm going to show you, first of all, let's do this. Let's go back 90 days. So we have some fictitious orders in there. And we're now going to get into customizing our reports. This is the first example, which I already did. I should have gotten rid of this. But if you have the proper rights, you're an editor or an admin in the property, then you'll see this pencil icon in many of the reports. Not all of them. Some you can't customize. But in many of them, you can customize the report. And so what I did was add a new metric. And so here are all the metrics that are available to you. And not all of them are available because some of these are related to the items array in e-commerce, for example. But I added the average order value. I applied it. And if I wanted to, actually, let's do this. You can see it right here. Let's move it up. So it's going to be the first thing. Now we're going to apply it. So you'll see some of the things that you can do. You see how it just showed up over here? We're going to save that. And you could save it as a new report if you wanted to, but we're going to save it as the existing one. And now this calculated metric, which we just kind of created, I'd already done it before, but whatever, we just added it to a standard report. Any of the calculated metrics we can add to a standard report as long as it makes sense. You know, whatever you're doing, it obviously wants to make sense. But you can see all the vast traffic on fredpike.com, my average order is $15.25. Wait till my Black Friday special starts. Man, that average order value is really going to skyrocket, I think. All right, so that kind of gets us into customizing reports. Where is that? Which is kind of the next thing I want to talk about. And what I want to do is just show a couple of examples to give you a feel for what you can do. Because one of the beauties of GA4, and potentially one of the downfalls, but one of the beauties is that as long as you're an editor or admin, you can really customize that UI. You can add things, you can delete things, you can get rid of columns that don't make sense. So you can really customize it to your own instance. And, you know, there's a whole lot of e-commerce reports and columns in many of the standard reports. If you're a B2B and you don't sell anything, you can get rid of all that and just eliminate noise, simplify what the UI looks like. Let's do that. Again, if you're an editor and admin, you're going to have this library folder show up in your standard reports. You can see that I have my standard setup, the default GA4 property setup for the reports over here. But I happen to know that there are other ones, that there are other things that I can add there, like Search Console is one. But there's also these business objectives. And when you first set up a GA4 property, if you've done that recently, you know, it goes through and asks you, what type of business is this? What are the things that are important? What sets of reports do you want? That's great, but that doesn't mean that you only get one choice. If you decide later that you want to add something, you can do that. And the way you do that is through the library. So this business objectives is one of those things that gets set up when you first set up the property. And you can see right now that it's unpublished. So we are going to do something really, really difficult here. We are going to publish it. Now it's published, it says published, and it now got added to our nav over here. Well, that's pretty cool. So we have all the generate lead things that show up under, we have all the reports that show up under generate leads. And let's say, you know, we wanted to add something there. I want to add another report there. So I'm going to, again, this is like super simple. I'm going to edit the collection. Here are the reports. I don't need that. Here are the reports. And let's say we want, it really doesn't matter. Let's add demographic details. Actually, let's go up to generate lead. Let's add demographic details. A standard report. Let's add that over here. And let's move it down under landing page. Pretty simple, right? All the reports, all the standard reports over here, including ones that you have created. Like this Brazil landing page is obviously not a standard one. It's one that I used when I was in Brazil. So you can add the existing ones or ones that you've customized. We're going to save that. I usually save it to the current collection, but it could be a totally different one if you want. The options are all yours. And now that should be saved. We'll go back. We go to our business objectives, generate leads. Can we have a little bit of a drum roll here? Did we get that? We got it. Look at that. We just customized our whole UI. We added something new to the nav. We added a new report here. And if we go into demographic details, just to pick on that, let's say that actually, what would we want to get rid of here? And just for the heck of it, let's get rid of total revenue. Let's pretend that total revenue is meaningless to us. We go into customize report. We go into our metrics. We go into total revenue. We click that X. It is gone. We're going to apply that. That disappeared from this column. We're going to save that to the current report. This is the longest waiting time. And now we go back. So that is gone. We've customized. I mean, look at what we did in like 5 minutes. We added a whole set of reports to the left-hand nav. We added a report within there. We customized one of the reports. The power here is just so cool. And the downside, of course, is that you could customize it beyond recognition. So if anybody else comes into your property and they're expecting, traffic acquisition to be here under generate leads, you might have moved it someplace else. So that's a downfall, but I think it's pretty small. I think it's manageable. I think if you can customize your GA4 property to your specific instance, your specific website, I think that's great. Okay. The other thing that I wanted to make sure we didn't forget is email. Now, this is brand new, and this is something that people have been complaining about forever, that they couldn't share their reports. They couldn't email their reports the way you could in GA4. So what can you do now? You can go up here, as long as you have access to that. You can schedule an email of this specific report to whomever you want. Whomever you want. The email address is down here, however often you're going to do it, etc. So this is like, I don't know, 2 weeks old or something, if that. It's pretty cool. They finally added it back in, something that we had in Universal Analytics, we all know and loved, and now we've got it here. And again, you can customize this report so that when it goes out to whomever you're sending it to, it is unique, specific to your website, your instance, the things that are important to you. I love this. Thank you, Google. There we go. All right. I know I want to keep us on time here, basically. I know we have a break coming up too, but so the next thing I want to talk about is Google Signals. And this can, maybe I'll just do screenshots on here, but so Google Signals, let's show that. Google Signals is one of the things that got added in GA4. It's Google's attempt to, well, do several things, but one of the main things it tries to do is identify a user across multiple devices. And how does it do that? It does that because most people use Chrome, most people have a Google account, a Gmail account of some sort, and most people have not turned off ads personalization in their Google account. So if I'm Fred Pike at gmail.com and I go on my Chrome browser on my desktop, it knows who I am. If I do that on my iPhone, it knows who I am. If I do that on my tablet, it knows who I am. If I do that on a different computer, it knows who I am, as long as I'm logged in there. In Universal Analytics, that would be 4 different users across the different devices. In GA4, through Google Signals, if you have it turned on, that person will be identified as one user. If you really want an accurate user count, Google Signals is a very good way to do that. So that's one option. If you're going to do any type of advertising, if you're going to build audiences, if you're going to advertise on YouTube, you need to have Google Signals turned on as well. But it does have an impact on reports. And what happens is that Google applies a privacy filter or a threshold to the reports. And basically, if an event has less than 50-ish users, Google is going to not show that. And so what do I mean by that? Let's look at some screenshots. Let's come back to this one. So here's an example of the Pages report that we're looking at. And you can see that this is showing about 3,400 pages on this particular website. And you can also see this little notification, blowing it up a little bit. Anytime you see that triangle with the exclamation mark, there's probably something you should be aware of. But again, we have 3,400 people here. And that's the thresholding applied, that privacy that I mentioned. Now, if you turn off the thresholding somehow, now look at this. You get, you don't have a check mark. You don't have that warning anymore. And look, we've gone from 3,400 pages to 7,700 pages. We've almost doubled the number of pages that we're doing that. And how do we do that? Let's go into the Google Merchandise Shop and show you where that came up from. That is under data collection. And we're looking at the Google Signals. Now, again, I'm not an editor here, so I can see that it's turned on. I can't turn it off. But this is the new thing that has shown up, is that you can turn off Google Signals and report an identity. It'll still track the users. It'll still build the audiences. It'll still allow all the YouTube advertising and all that stuff. It'll still grab that and build the demographic information, but it's not going to screw up your reporting. So let's take a look at 2 pages with that. Here's one page with Google Signals on, include signals on, the thing that I just showed you, and the report and identity is blended. This is how you used to turn it off before. You would say, just give me device rather than the blended. And you want blended because that gives you the Google user across all the different devices. So this is what we have. We get the thresholding. We get 3,400 pages. Same thing, signals is on, include signals is off, and we're still using the report and identity of blended. So that's a fairly new feature that got added maybe 2 months ago. And if you're using Google Signals, which you probably should be, you want to make sure that we have that off. Okay. Coming up on time here, but we also are almost coming up to the end too. So the next thing, and I'm just going to, we could spend 6 hours on this and I'm not going to, but I just want to clear something up about attribution. In GA4, there's something called the default channel group, and it takes all the traffic coming in, applies it through a series of rules and says, okay, this is organic, this is paid social, this is paid search, whatever. What a lot of people don't realize is that there are actually 3 different default channel groups. And this gets so confusing to people, particularly if they're comparing it to Universal Analytics or whatever. So it's important to understand that there are 3 different default channel groups. There's the first user, which is the very first time I arrived on your website. How did I get there? Was that through an ad? Was that organic? Whatever. That is assigned to first user. I may come back 100 times to your website, and that first user is still going to apply to me. The next one is the session, and this is, how did I get here this time? This 100th time that I hit your website, I might have come through an email, let's say. That's going to give me the session default channel group. And there's a tiny bit of a caveat here. Let's say I got there via email. My default channel group is email. 5 minutes into the session, I go out, I click on an ad, I come back in into that same session. The default channel group doesn't change from the beginning of the session, although I will get attribution from that ad. So that's a little bit different than UA. And I think that's a bit of an edge case. But let's just assume that from the first time I hit the website at that session, my session default channel group happens. And then there's the event or attribution default channel group. And that's, we've already seen an example of this. That's when it says default channel group here under conversions, and we have our decimal points over here. This is from that 3rd default channel group. Even though it doesn't say anything other than default channel group up here, you just have to know, oh, that's not first user. Oh, that's not session. This is data. This is event or data-driven attribution default channel group. Now, why people would be confused about that is beyond me. No, it's seriously one of the most confusing things about GA4. People get messed up on this all the time. So just know that there are 3 different ways of defining the default channel group. And particularly if you go into the explorations, when you choose a session source medium, for example, or when you choose source medium, be conscious of what you're choosing. Is it first user? Is it session? Is it attribution? All right. I hope I either added some sunshine into the GA4 box here, or maybe added a lot more confusion. I'm not totally sure. But that's the end of my presentation on customizing and optimizing. For all you good people who have been attending so far, we'd love to work with you at Northwoods. We have a special offer if you'd like to work with me and my team. We have retainers for SEO, for UX, for a number of different things that you could work with us. And if you do that, you would get a free GA4 audit to make sure that your GA4 is set up properly, as well as, since many of you are in the EU, as well as a privacy scan to make sure that you are honoring people's consent when they choose blocking cookies or not, which is a big thing. So how do I find this great deal, Fred? How do I find this? It's not even Black Friday. So you can do it through the QR code, or you can go fredpike.me/DZ, and that'll get you to the page as well. Now, I never end a presentation without bringing something in about my favorite puppy, Shusha, my Pekingese, who just turned 10 this last week, or 10 years since we brought her home at any rate. So Shusha says, thank you very much. I'm pretty sure we're out of time, but if there's any question, I'm happy to answer it. I don't see anything in the chat.
Yeah, I collected the questions, but
awesome.
We don't have too much time, so I'm just asking some of them. And one of the questions is that why does every property have the landing page not set?
Oh, sure.
And what do you think about whether this is a problem can be solved in the future, or this is not a problem for you?
Yeah, so the not set on the landing page is, as you said, as a questioner asked, is on every single GA4 property that I've seen at any rate. And what happens is that I go to the website, a landing page is set. I go to lunch. I come back 30 plus minutes later. The session has ended. By default, the session times out after 30 minutes. You can change that, by the way. But by default, it's 30 minutes, and most people leave it at that. I come back after lunch, 60 minutes later, let's say. I start up again. A new session starts. That event, session_start, fires. But there's no associated page view with that. So that's where the not set comes from. It's just sessions that previously started, the person went away for 30 plus minutes, came back, started working on the website again. There's no page view. So one way around that some people do is that you can change the timeout to 7 hours and 55 minutes. That's the maximum that you can change the session timeout to. So if that really bugs you, if that not set is really bugging you, go ahead and do that. Otherwise, typically I don't worry about it, because the true landing page does show up there. That first time that I showed up on the website and the session started, the landing page is captured. The not set is when I went to lunch and came back. And I'm less concerned about that as a landing page. I'd even argue that's not a landing page. So maybe Google shouldn't even include that. So I have not changed the session timeout to that 7 hours and 55 minutes, but I know some people that have.
Okay, perfect. Thank you for the answer.
Sure.
And one more question. What is the difference in data loss percentage between a site with Google consent mode and without it?
What is the
difference in data loss?
In data load?
Yeah, data loss, like loss of data.
Oh, data loss. I'm sorry. Got it. Sure. Yeah. All right. So consent mode, tiny bit controversial. What consent mode does is if I in the cookie banner, I say, do not track me, Google will honor that in the way that it'll still send a hit to Google Analytics and to Google Ads or whatever, but that hit does not show up in real time, does not show up in your reports. That hit is used to model traffic. So it's not associated with a user. As a matter of fact, with the ad stuff, you can even redact the Google Click ID, the GCLID, which identifies that person who clicked on the ad. So you can add the privacy level there too. All it does is it's grabbing traffic and using that to model what the traffic would be like. Some people don't like that Google sends that information. I think the way they do it is good. I mean, I'm not an attorney or anything, but it is totally anonymized. I can't see it. All I see is the resulting modeled hits or page views and stuff. And I would say fairly recently, I've kind of changed my mind on this. I'm kind of a fan of it, actually. And the reason I wasn't before is because consent mode was god-awful difficult to set up when it first came out. But it's gotten way better now. And the CMP, the consent management platform that we use, is OneTrust. They have a great integration with consent mode. I'm kind of switching my thinking about it to use consent mode.
Okay, perfect. I think that's it. Thank you, Fred, again to join us this year in 2023. The presentation was highly technical and detailed for me. And I think it was like a training session for everybody. So I'm pretty sure that most of the people have already begun like experimenting it. So cool. Thank you again for joining us.
And everybody make sure to stick around for Heather, who's coming up after this short break. And Ahmet, thank you very much. CEO, thanks a lot.
Thank you. Have a great day.
You too. Thanks.
Bye-bye.